Good evening, welcome to the Mobile Suit Gundam class. Tonight we're covering the first half of Episode 9, Fly Gundam. Man, it's already sweltering. The heat hit all at once, and I'm wiped out. Just stepping outside drains me. Even the 1-minute walk to the 7-Eleven wears me out. It's enough to make you sick of it. So yes, this session is on Episode 9, Fly Gundam, but before we dive in, I want to explain where this episode sits in the story, what kind of position it holds. If you look at the flow from Episode 1 through Episode 9, let me outline how the story runs from Episode 1, Gundam Rising, is essentially the tale of why the protagonist Amuro Ray winds up piloting the Gundam. Episode 2, Destroy Gundam, is about why Char is so determined to pursue it. So Episode 1 tracks Amuro as an individual, and Episode 2, while watching Amuro's moves, becomes a story that spotlights Char. Episode 3, Attack on the Supply Ship, shows that the White Base simply wants to get away from Char. Episode 4, Escape from Luna 2, is the chapter where, unable to hide at Luna 2, they decide to flee to Earth. After Episodes 1 and 2 introduce the characters, Episode 3 lays out the overall arc, running flat out from Char, while Episode 4 presents the situation they're Episode 5, Re-Entry to Earth, asks, Char is still giving chase, but can we escape? The answer is no, though because Char also descends alone, maybe they'll manage somehow. That takes us into Episode 6, Garma Strikes. Once on Earth they find Garma Zabi, maybe not as smart as Char, but commanding a scarier force, waiting, which means there's nowhere safe to run. Episode 7, The Core Fighter's Escape, deals with anxiety and frustration building up inside the White Base. The Episode 8 I covered last week, Winds of War, represents a stalemate, what Shogi calls senikite. Senikite is a Shogi term for endlessly repeating the same sequence, because neither side can force. The White Base crawls along a canyon, scattering Minovsky particles so Zeon can't strike, but that canyon ends eventually. Then what? Zeon has troubles too. If the White Base keeps slipping away at this pace, they can't widen the net and will lose them. They're stuck as well. So with both sides cornered, they agree to a temporary ceasefire. That was the story. Episode 9, Fly Gundam, is where the White Base finally launches a counterattack. That's the larger flow. Everything through the first half, up to Episode 9, is one long flight from Char. And starting here, the fear is that Char will link up with an even stronger Earthside force. If those forces joined, the White Base would be finished. But the audience slowly realizes Char and the Earth Theater commander Garma are plotting something. Alright, let's get into the breakdown of Episode 9, Fly Gundam. Tonight we're showing the first half. The free stream runs about 16.5 minutes, so see you then. I'll stay here in this nice cool studio until you're done watching. Enjoy the first half. Tonight's Mobile Suit Gundam lecture is the first half of Episode 9, Fly Gundam. The title, Fly Gundam, is also the series theme song, but within Episodes 1 through 9 it's the installment where the infighting aboard the White Base reaches its limit. At long last we glimpse how that gets resolved. It's a dramatic turning point. Plot-wise, it's not the biggest twist. The major branch comes next time in Episode 10, Garma's Fate. This one clarifies where everyone stands so the story can accelerate. That doesn't mean Episode 9 solves every problem, or leaves everyone cheerful. Plenty of baggage remains. Right now the White Base is juggling all kinds of issues. First, the overall situation itself is at the breaking point. Inside the White Base they're already suffering a food shortage. Then there's what I call the refugees, sliding into delinquency. The 100+ refugees aboard obeyed orders at first because they were scared. Over time they started grumbling, let us off already. They've rioted before, begged to disembark, even stormed the bridge, trouble after trouble. Now they don't even bother. They've turned apathetic, and petty crimes are creeping in. Communication with Federation HQ is another headache. Before now they believed, if we can just reach them, we'll be saved. This time they learn that getting through doesn't help at all. Everything's stewing. They're truly up against the wall. The characters themselves are hitting the limit as well. This episode drives Amuro, Bright, and Garma right to the edge. Let's look at how Amuro ends up cornered. This comes almost immediately in the opening scene. Amuro says, "Since we left Side 3, I haven't slept properly once. Even when I try, I can't." He only confesses that because Fraubo keeps pressing him. "What's wrong? Tell me." And you can feel how ragged he is. It's not just insomnia. He's strung so tight he can't calm down. "My nerves are racing, I feel feverish, and no matter what I do, I can't sleep. I'm so irritable, I can't control it." He squeezes that out under relentless questioning from Fra. She keeps asking, and he finally spills it. That's how we grasp the pressure crushing Amuro. Right as he's cracking, the food shortage becomes impossible to ignore. If it were merely, "we're low on rations," that would be one thing. But Kai Shiden storms over to Tamura the cook complaining, "Why do Amuro and Ryu get bigger portions than we do?" It turns out Bright ordered Tamura to serve Amuro and Ryu full pilot rations. In real militaries, when supplies dwindle, you don't cut everyone equally, you prioritize the people who absolutely can't afford malnutrition. Pilots ride machines worth billions into combat, so you can't have them blacking out from hunger. They get priority. Every army does that. Bright gave the same order, but it ended up creating a sense of inequality on the white base. So the problem isn't just privation, it's the resentment of, why do those guys get more? After Fra talks to him, Amuro pulls himself together a little and leaves his room. In the corridor, he runs into Katz, Let's, and Kika, the trio of little kids. While Kai was chewing out Tamura, the kids had sneaked into the galley to pinch themselves a snack, harmless mischief. They nabbed a few tomatoes and dashed off, only to bump into Amuro. They hand him one. "Here, good luck. Keep it a secret, okay?" Amuro, charmed by the little girl's gesture, accepts it, thinking, kids really are sweet. It's just a brief moment, but it sticks with him, because when he heads to the mess at Fra's urging, there's a heaping tray waiting for him. Across from him, everyone else's portions barely cover their plates. An old man beside a well-behaved child quietly steals the kid's food. Amuro watches the old man wolf it down, walk away without a word, and the child sits there, none the wiser. Left alone, it would simply be a snapshot of petty theft born of desperation. Remember, Amuro has only just patched things up with Fra. He'd blurted out, "I can't sleep," snapped at her, stepped into the hall, got that tomato from the kids, and cooled off a bit. He even managed to say sorry about before, and Fra replied, "It's fine." Then he witnesses that scene. He tells the boy, "Let's eat together," and slides his own tray over, meaning, "Let's share." The boy's mother, grateful yet embarrassed, asks, "Are you sure? Everyone's starving," so it's not refusal, it's astonished thanks. But Fra jumps in. "Amuro, those are combat rations. You have to eat properly." Amuro snaps, "Then don't make me eat here." It's such a powerful line. He's no superhero. He can't change reality. Resupply would be ideal, but that's impossible. He knows if he fails, everyone on the white base dies, so he must stay battle ready. All he can do is lash out at Fra, "Then don't make me eat here," meaning, don't force me to face this. After that, he shuts himself in his room and sinks again. Bright, simmering, gets on the radio and orders Amuro out on patrol. Amuro grumbles, "Why should I? There's no reason for us to go to them," and slowly bites into the tomato. It's the one the kids gave him. The scene deliberately echoes what we just saw. That tomato was stolen from the galley too. Stealing has become normal for everyone now. Maybe the kids thought it was a prank, but once Amuro accepted it, he couldn't claim innocence. He's already complicit. That's why he couldn't scold the old man for stealing the child's meal. He just offered to share. And even that Fra shut down, leaving him with nothing but that outburst. Amuro, chewing the tomato alone in his room, shows how that little kindness backfired after what he saw. Everything keeps deteriorating, even though no one aboard is truly a villain. So why was Bright yelling for a patrol? Because minutes earlier, he'd finally received a transmission from Federation Command. When Sayla opens the channel, a coded message prints out, and as she starts to read it, Bright snatches it from her hands. It's rare to see. Bright, irritated, grabs the sheet mid-sentence while Sayla just stares at his back in disbelief. The message simply says, White base is to break through the enemy line and escape to sea. Lieutenant Reed shouts, "Are they sending help? Can't we talk to the general staff?" Sayla answers that even encrypted comms are too risky inside Zeon territory. Bright, fuming, yells, "What are those generals thinking?" And Reed replies, "They don't know the front lines." That shot is the archetypal setup of this episode. Yasuhiko's layout nails it so well they reuse the composition in other scenes. The very next cut repeats almost the same framing. It's nearly identical, because it just works. Reed, arm in a sling, holding a drink in the rear seat. Bright in front, the two talking without meeting eyes. That's the layout. The staging is locked in. By this point in Gundam, they're leaning heavily on reusing layouts like that. Bright's frustration starts with finally reaching the general staff, only to be told, just escape. If it were that easy, they would have escaped ages ago. They're short on provisions, short on ammo, burdened with refugees. Even a tip like "head here in Federation forces, will rendezvous," would help. But instead it's, do your best, and break out on your own. And, lounging in the captain's chair now is Reed, who turns to Bright and says this, "We're running out of weapons and ammunition. One big fight, and we can't hold," he warns. Bright shoots back, "I know. That's why I'm trying to figure out how we survive." Reed answers, "If all you want is to survive, that's easy, Bright." Everyone already knows exactly what he's implying. When Bright snaps, "Don't be ridiculous," Reed continues, "Just abandon the white base," and Bright practically barks, "Lieutenant Reed," as in, "You can't say that." They keep addressing him as Captain Reed, but he's no captain. He's a senior officer hitching a ride while Bright serves as acting skipper. He's basically a headquarters middle manager, planted on the bridge because he outranks the kids. What he's really proposing is, Zeon wants the white base in the Gundam, not us. Dump them, and we'll all live. He's advocating desertion, though he'd argue they're no longer under formal orders anyway. Commander Joaquin at Luna 2 only told them to descend to Earth. After that, there's no directive, so Reed thinks abandoning ship is fine if it keeps them alive. Bright, ever earnest, can't. If Amuro's being crushed as a person, Bright's being crushed by duty, by the burden of leading everyone. He's only 18 or 19, really still between boy and man. Yet aboard this kid-heavy ship, only he and Ryu are seen as properly trained military personnel. He feels that responsibility and can't let it go. So hearing an actual lieutenant casually suggest abandoning ship in front of the crew sets off every alarm in him. That leaves Bright with a real sense of danger. Because that clash has him cornered, he suddenly blurts, "Right, let's send out a patrol even though there's no need." But when he radios Amuro to send him out, Amuro just starts sulking. When nothing's going right, nothing goes right. So how was that? Jano, thanks for the ad. Kai Shiden griping to Tamura about meals makes sense. He figures he's been flying the gun cannon since last time, so he should be treated like Amuro. So Kai's complaint is perfectly valid. Bright just can't keep up. He did think to say give Ryu and Amuro larger combat rations, but the situation keeps changing. Hayato sorties, and now Kai is flying the gun cannon solo. He understands all that, but he hasn't even had time to tell the galley, put Kai and Hayato on combat rations as well. He's juggling everything alone and can't catch up. The encrypted order, white base should break through the enemy line and reach the sea, really means find some spot along the California coast and force your way into the Pacific. But the white base is so battered it has to keep landing to rest the engines and repair. So Bright can't help grumbling. Do they even understand what we're dealing with? By the way, earlier I said Reed was sipping coffee in the captain's chair, but maybe that prop was actually the message card. The drawings are so rough that it's hard to tell, and I'm just talking over it. One amusing reading is that Tamino modeled Reed on the irresponsible higher-ups at Sunrise. When he was making Space Runaway Ideon, the series after Gundam, Tamino kept writing essays in Animage, complaining, again and again, that he never had good bosses. He wrote about how the one person he truly respected back at Mushi Production on Astro Boy died on him. So in this story, Bright Noah is Tomino himself, Though within the drama he's also Amuro. Tamino can't throw away Gundam. He has to keep the studio running, while the Sunrise executives say it's fine if one show fails. Through Reed saying just dump the white base, and Bright retorting we can't possibly do that. Tamino is depicting the gap between the people on the ground and the managers upstairs. Looking at the white base as an animation studio actually makes watching Gundam pretty interesting. Within the show they often say, one weapon like the Gundam can't change a war, yet Amuro fights his heart out and changes the situation. Likewise, Tamino may think one series like Mobile Suit Gundam won't rewrite animation history, but the boom around that single show leads to the massive New Type Declaration event in Shinjuku and helps animation win mainstream recognition. In that sense, it's the miracle of a middle-aged man, Tamino, grabbing hold of Gundam and reshaping the world with it. Comparing Gundam with the real Showa-era history behind it reveals some surprisingly interesting parallels. We'll move into the second half from here. From this point, it's for paid viewers, so if you're watching for free, please look forward to next week. Paid members, please start the second half stream now. Thanks.